Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to the Public Works Committee for Wednesday, April 24th. I'm going to call our meeting to order. Start with any declarations of conflict. I'm not seeing any. Councillor McAleer is not right now presently on the line, but he may try to join. I need someone to approve our agenda, and I think we have some adjustments to our agenda before we actually approve it. Scott, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So there's two items on the agenda that we'd like to remove for today. And one is the CPWA conference, and the other one is the stormwater management document. We noticed there's a couple things that we wanted to add some more information on first before we bring it to committee.
Okay, so we are going to ask to remove item B and item E under the reports. And we would look for someone to approve the agenda with those two items removed.
Item B,
The 2025 CPWA conference and the stormwater management guidelines. There's more information to come at the next meeting.
and will you have also, through the chair to the chief engineer, any budget amount? I can't remember what it was in the budget for 24-25. Was it 300,000?
He'll get that at the next time because it's going to be scratched from this agenda for today. So I need someone to...
I'm just asking him if he could include the amount that'll be available for stormwater management, which would be...
So I think there's two things. Yes, that's for our capital work. Yes, I can provide that information in email later or following this meeting. The thing that was on the docket for today that we're going to ask to delay until another meeting is a new stormwater management guideline for design purposes, so for developers and our own needs.
Yeah,
Okay, so we just need someone to move our agenda without item B and E.
just under new business, I just want to give...
We're not there yet, Your Worship. New business
that's-
will be at the 7.
But that's part of the agenda, introduction of new business.
Yeah, you want to bring new business forward?
Yeah, just...
Yeah, so wouldn't that be where we would do it, under item 7? You'd introduce new business.
want to give you a warning that I want to bring something forward.
Yeah, and you, Worship, I promise you can bring it up under 7. So
well,
we're
thank
going to move accept the agenda without items
Yeah.
B and E
Yep.
first, and then whenever we get to new
Moved.
items. Moved, seconded,
Yeah.
Councillor Twill? Okay, all in favor, good. Okay, you'll get that, I promise. Adoption of our minutes attached from April 11th. I need someone to move that. Moved by Councillor Twill, seconded by His
Move.
Worship.
Second.
Is there any business arising from those minutes from April 11th?
Yes, there is. Again, it's under new business from the last meeting. I'm just getting to it now. About the Civic Board for Persons with Disabilities Advisory Committee. I know I thought I brought it up at the last meeting, but we appear to have no staff person at that meeting, or those meetings, so I'm just trying to make sure that we can have someone there to relay the information between the advisory committee and this standing committee.
Yep. And we do have an update when we get to new
Yep.
business on our civic board, so we'll make sure that we reaffirm that we'd like to have someone here. So thank you. So do other new business to look at? Are we ready to move on to our first report, which is Touch a Truck event? Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we, as a city, are part of a group called Canadian Public Works Association. This is both a national, and we're also linked to the American Public Works Association. And it's a group to promote what public works do around North America, and how we are key players in ensuring people can go about their daily lives without having to think about all the work that goes in behind the scenes. There's a lot of great things that come from this group, and one of the things we've been looking at is how can we encourage people to learn more about public works and the things that we do around the city here. And one of those ways of engagement that a lot of people have had success with is a Touch a Truck event. This has happened in PEI, elsewhere in previous years. And it's an event where we invite some of our own equipment, contractors, set up big equipment, and it's a family fun day where kids can get up close and personal climb on the equipment, get to see how it works. None of the equipment's on by any means, but it's a way for kids and families to get to see the big equipment that they get to see from a distance on a job site. They get to see it up front and in person. The Boys and Girls Club, or the BGC, for Charlottetown, we've been talking with them, and we think it'd be a great partnership between the city and us to host such event. It would be an event that would be, the admission would be by donation, which would go to the Boys and Girls Club. So those folks would manage that part of it. Our part would be quite small. It would be just helping secure all the pieces of equipment, which I've had a few discussions with some contractors around the city already, just in other discussions, and the response I get from them is where and when, not a no. So there seems to be a lot of interest for this, and it's a great way to invite the community out, and a great family fun event that we could be part of here in the city. So we're here just asking for committee and council support to host, or to be part of hosting this event. And there would be some in-kind support that the event would be looking for. Again, a couple of our large pieces of equipment to be able to be parked at the site for the event. Potentially 2 to 3 staff on site during the event, which would probably about a 3 or 4 hour commitment to just make sure to show our city residents how the equipment works and how it operates in its capacity. Just some in-kind time for myself to be part of the group of the BGC Charlottetown, just organizing the event, and then the usual barricades, garbage bins, and picnic tables, which are typically that we could typically use and support other events around the city.
Thank you, Scott, and I know that His Worship loves partnerships and collaboration with our community, but I just want to go back. I'm sorry, I'm not sure. I was just asked if we've actually approved our previous minutes, so I think after discussion what we did, but I'm going to, Your Worship, you're good to move them? Councillor Tweel?
I moved.
Move
Yep.
second. Good. Thank you. Sorry about that, Tracy. Okay, so that sounds like an exciting day to promote some of the great stuff that goes on with the city, and I think, is there any issues with moving this to council for?
Is it going to be on a public right-of-way, public street? Are we doing that? Are we doing a parking lot? Like, could you define it?
It would be, Your Worship, it would be in a parking lot somewhere.
Okay.
So those are, once we get council support, or if the council supports us in moving forward, those are the details that we would start to iron out as we get further down into the planning. We're looking at it right now, hosting it sometime in late September. So it's still nice weather on hopefully a weekend day. And in a large parking lot where there's ample parking for families can come and be able to see all the equipment.
Fun. Are we good moving this to council for support?
Moving it, yeah, I want to move it, and then are you going to second it? Yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to add, now it's on the floor, so are we looking at the Charlottetown Event Grounds? Because that should be available, ready for the, I think, the International Shellfish Festival, so it's a great site for it.
That's the current site we're thinking of. There's a couple other sites that, if we have to, we would be looking at it. But that would be that's kind of the current idea, but nothing has been confirmed yet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Exciting. Little children of our city will love to get on those big trucks and see how they work. The second agenda item today are our capital project updates. Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we, as a result of our budget that has been approved by council, we have now gone through and looked at the impact that has, as well as, my apologies, I'm just getting set up here. So yes, we've looked at the impact that has, and then updated our capital projects list for moving forward for this year, and to give you guys, you folks, a bit of a update on where we're at. So we're well underway for Eastern Gateway Phase 1 and 2 and Seaview Boulevard. Work has been going for a number of weeks now, and things are progressing very well, and no major issues to date that we see moving forward with either of those projects. And then the rest are moving either in getting ready to tender, or still a little bit of design work left to do. The The next big ones on the list to get out the door are our street resurfacing program, which we anticipate hopefully next week. We'll have that out the door for tendering. And then sometime next month, our sidewalks, we anticipate that tender document going out as well. And then there will be a number of small tenders throughout the rest of the months, over the summer months, to finalize. There's some items that you may see on this list that are here. We might not be doing work on them this year, but or I shouldn't say we might not do construction on them this year, but we're keeping them on the list that we're still doing some design work on them if they're a major project.
It's good to hear. I had a call today looking to see if there were still tenders. We're looking for our tenders where they were, so it's good to be able to report that there is still tenders to come, so people will be looking for those. And it's good to have updates regularly, kind of seeing where these projects are, because with the new budget process, this was part of the commitment to that. So it's good to be able to look at that. Are there any questions regarding the capital projects update on this report for information?
Councillor Twilly, did you want to go ahead there, or? No, you're good? Just under sidewalks, multi-use paved pathways, that's your section 2. Madam Chair and Chief Engineer, I did forward an email from a constituent out in Ward 8. Stockman Drive has been asking and asking, and again, I don't know where it is on the 5-year, 10-year list, but that neighborhood has been, I know with the former councillor who was our deputy mayor, asked repeatedly where it was on the list of priorities, but I think it's just like Scott Street. I know Angus Drive is there. I know Gates Drive is there. Montgomery Drive. You know, these are areas that have been waiting for some time for at least, if not a concrete sidewalk, but at least a active transportation pathway. And Scott, if I remember correctly, a lot of that area was ditch infilled over the years, so doesn't require, it will not require ditch infill, and it's already done. So just really want to put that as a priority, because we know that the outlying areas, West Royalty, East Royalty, Winslow, Parkdale, Sherwood, are waiting for at least some pedestrian pathways, whether it's a sidewalk, ATP, or MUPP. Thank you.
That's going to come up next to your worship under D. We are going to look at the sidewalk construction update, so that could fall under that category, but go ahead,
I can
Scott.
just give a
Sure.
quick update on Stockman. So yes, it's tentatively slated for next year, pending budgets, of course. That's always that's the biggest factor, that at the end of the day, even though we have a 5-year plan, you know, there's always new budget constraints every year, or new pressures that we're competing for dollars. So, but as of right now, we will work towards designing of that later this year and being ready for next year to tender it if our budget, as we had planned for, is approved.
And Madam Chair, I appreciate that, you know, the chief engineer is listening not only from councillors, but also constituents that are probably phoning you to remind you about the situation. If I could just ask about the Eastern Gateway, Phase 1, it's at 40%, Phase 2 is 20%. So Phase 1, is that deadline for June to be finished?
I'll have to confirm what that date is, and I can follow up with an email on that one.
Because Phase 2 is now on, the concrete culverts are in, the plastic culvert is in, lots of equipment down there. So, again, a lot of traffic is being disrupted, but they knew it was going to happen because it's a major, it's $14 million federal, provincial, municipal project, and it's going to be great for the city. So if you can just follow up on that, because, again, Madam Chair, these are numbers that we've seen in water and sewer and completion of projects. The first column would be the percentages, and I appreciate that percentage on, you know, getting a good idea where we're at. Thank
We'll
you.
have that included for our council package,
Yeah.
then update it to make sure where we're supposed to be. Okay, perfect. All right, thank you. 6D report is the 2024 sidewalk update. Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, this is another one of those updated items as a result of our capital budget. We Had a small reduction, really and truly, at the end of the day from our original ask for sidewalks. So we're approximately $3 million for our sidewalks this year. And so at the end of the day, we only had to remove one project from our original list of projects when we removed Cedar Avenue. So you'll see a list of, I think it's 8 spots there that we anticipate being able to complete within that $3 million budget for this coming year. Again, we won't know exactly until the final prices do come in, but our current numbers that we are aware of we should be able to complete this project this year.
Your worship.
So we can't add another one? You went from 9 to 8?
That's
It was
correct.
$1 million difference, though, 906,000.
Yeah.
So we were over, if you look at the updated list is 3.09 million. That's an estimate, right? That you don't have prices yet, you just. you're
That's
estimating.
correct. That's based on engineers' estimates, based on past numbers that we've been seeing come in over the
4
past
million
little
for
bit.
3.2 kilometers.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. We'll be watching it.
Always. Right. Okay. You good, Councillor Twill? Move that on to council for information?
Yeah.
Okay. Turn on your mic.
So there's still an opportunity to add more streets to be paved, correct?
These are
Sidewalks.
sidewalks, Councillor Twill.
Sidewalks, streets and sidewalks.
Okay, we're just on sidewalks on this report right now.
Okay, well, as you know, Scott, I'm going to be coming back to you about further exploring the opportunities in Allen Street from Mr. Plummer going east to St. Peter's Road. So, that's a major concern in that community.
I think there's a meeting scheduled, right, Councillor Twill?
Haven't had it scheduled yet.
Yeah, the chair actually, or the manager updated me today that he's committed to having a meeting with
Right.
yourself and your residents during
Yeah.
the day to set up an opportunity to look
Yeah.
at that and explore and provide them with the information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's extremely important because it is a major safety issue for the seniors and persons of disability that live in that neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Councillor Twill. Scott, you'll make sure you follow up and set that date so that those residents will have the opportunity to come in and discuss and hear. That's good. Okay, we're left E. The report now is transfer of funds, 2023 street resurfacing package C. Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a bit of a housekeeping item. Last year, when we added the third package, an extra $1 million to the street resurfacing program, in our resolution that we brought forward, we did not put the verbiage that said that we had to transfer the money from another account, and that was the intent. It was in the support page information, but it wasn't actually on the resolution page. So this is just here to create, to get your get your approval to take this back to council, and just create a resolution that would state that that transfer of funds for that package C does come from the allotment that was on University Avenue Rehabilitation Project to the street resurfacing program. So it was all, like I say, it was included in the details of the support page of the resolution, which in the past had been permitted was sufficient information to allow the transfer. But it was just flagged this year by finance that we should have an actual resolution to cover that. So that's why, like I say, it's a housekeeping item, but just to make sure we're
We did
following
discuss,
practice.
though, that this transfer, and it was made
Absolutely.
aware, so
Yep,
it's
it
not
was-
new
it was in the-
information, so it's just
That's
to make
correct.
sure.
So we did spend it?
Yeah, so so the money was spent, and it was assumed that the transfer had happened, because it was in the support page, and in the past, that was sufficient support for finance to allow that transfer to happen. But I think it might have been because of the BDO report and all that stuff, it got flagged that it should actually be now right in the resolution of where the money's what account the money's being transferred from to another account, just so that it's very clear and transparent where that money's coming from, and that council supported that transfer. So
But Madam Chair, so Island Construction was paid the 1.2. Everything's been paid.
Yes, again, it's a housekeeping item just to make sure.
It's so that if you go back and wonder where the money came from the project, it's going to be very open where any of us can look and see that information, so.
Exactly.
Yeah. Better bookkeeping, your worship.
That's what came from the BDO report that we commissioned.
Exactly, so
Yes,
they're
it's all
following
good
the
stuff.
recommendations, which is wonderful, and it's going to certainly make everyone's life a lot easier in the end. Thank you for that. We'll move that to council. We're all in agreement to move that to council and get a resolution going. Perfect. Sale of city-owned structures is the next item on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the city has 3 surplus houses that we have become owners of for a number of reasons. There are 2 houses that are currently located on Mount Ever Road, 241 Mount Ever Road and 245 Mount Ever Road. These were purchased at the end of 2020, early 2021 is when the deal finalized.
Yeah.
And they were purchased to permit the Spencer Drive extension work that we're currently designing for and working towards. And then the third property is 54 Maple Avenue. And again, another property that the city purchased through that oil leak that had happened a number of years ago at the Sherwood Rec Hall. And so we are recommending to proceed to a public sale of tender for these to be moved. So we would be putting out a public tender. The public has the opportunity to put in a price that they would want to buy that for, and then we would open those bids, and the high bid would be we would enter an agreement to sell those properties to be moved.
Another happy note for you today, your worship. I know you've been asking for when these tenders were coming, so.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Could I ask through the chair to the chief engineer, will these be separate tenders or is it a one package tender?
Your worship, so they're all separate, yes. So you do not have to package. You, as an individual, you could bid on 1, 2, or 3, however you see fit. There'll be individual bids. Yep.
Right. I know with one of the packages, it has the principal residence and an accessory building. So what you're saying is that package would include both the principal residence and the accessory building?
Yes, it would be, if there's a garage, it would be the full package of what's on that property. It would be the house and the accessory building, yes.
And part of that package would also include, Madam Chair, to move, not only purchase, but to remove them, correct?
Move at the owner's expense.
That is
Yeah.
correct. The owner would be responsible for moving it. We put a timeline on how, and we know it does take a few months to get a contractor lined up to get it moved, and you also have to have your property ready and foundation poured. So that's why we want to move on these now, so that we have some time to allow an owner to get their property wherever they're moving these buildings to ready. So it's the least costly for them as well.
Okay, that's good. Everybody's good with moving that to council? Again, information. Thank you. Relocation of Hertz Hall, contract. Scott?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a recent tender that had closed. It is the relocation of Harts Hall out on St. Peter's Road. We had 2 bidders, WM&M 1993 Limited and APM McLean's. WM&M came a low bid of $485,000 plus all applicable taxes. We had budgeted a $400,000 for this. We do think it is a reasonable price, so we are recommending to award with the remaining funds for this project to come from another capital account that we currently haven't spent yet, and that is the Mount Ever Road Transit Depot upgrades. There's some. We're still working on a few matters over on the Mount Ever Road Transit Depot, the existing building, the old building that we own. There's some repairs that need to be done on that facility, but they don't need to be done right away. It can wait a little bit, and so we would tender some of that work later this year with anything that's remaining in that count. So that's why we say we'd rather see Hertz Hall move ahead, because it is a building that is is showing its age for sure. And every winter that passes, we're incurring more and more damage to that facility as a result of its location adjacent to Sherwood Road or St. Peter's Road.
Your worship, you have a question on that? Your mic's on.
I'm on page 73. You on that, Scott? So you're relocating the remaining funds needed to complete the work from the Mount Edward Transit Depot project. Can you just explain that a little more broadly, please?
Yeah, so so as you're aware, the city owns the existing transit depot that's over there. We have a tenant, of course, Transit, or Trias, Coach Atlantic, rent from us. When that building was purchased about just over a year ago now, we had an assessment done of the building by a structural engineer or an engineering firm, and they had identified a number of repairs that should be done. There was a list of within the next 1 to 2 years, 2 to 4 years, 5 years kind of thing. And the first round of repairs, they estimated somewhere around $200,000 worth of repairs. And that's what we had earmarked. The first $200,000 that's in that account is for those repairs. Now, as of right now, as you're also aware, we are working towards building a new transit facility on the back end of that building. There's a lot of moving pieces right now, and for us to bring in another contractor, potentially do work on the existing building, we're just not sure how that's all going to work out just yet. And so we just want to pause, pump the brakes on this project a little bit right now, for Mount Edward Road, I should say, like the repair of the existing building. We just want to pump the brakes on that until we know how it plays into with the overall new construction of the facility, and as well how it works with our current tenant. That's a bit of a challenge too, because there's some work. It's not going to have a great impact to their business, but it does impact them, and we need to coordinate that a little bit better before we tender that work out. So essentially, what we're saying is we don't expect to spend the $200,000 this year, just because knowing that there's some potentially we might have to delay it until the fall to tender it once we work out all the wrinkles in having all those contractors on the site. We don't think we'll be able to spend the $200,000 this year. So that's why we say this is a good account to take it from now. We're not asking for more money in our overall capital budget. We think this is the spot to take it from, and to put it to Harts Hall, we think it's more of a priority to get that building away from the road on a new foundation than to get the Mount Edward Road property underway, or repairs done.
Proper planning.
And Madam Chair, on the new public transit depot, I think we have a timeline, don't we? Have, because of that federal, provincial, especially the federal funding, 2026. So the planning must be going ahead to start moving soon, because it'll catch up as one day passes into 1 week, 1 week into 1 month, and so forth.
Yep, so there's some work ongoing there, and you'll see more reports come out of the environment sustainability on that building.
Will we also, before we move that, have when you move 133 from one account to another, will there be a resolution similar to what we just talked about for council to come forward, so that's clear there as well?
Yes, Madam Chair. So in the resolution, it will say the typical verbiage of, recommend award to M&M or WM&M 1993 Limited, then, and that the transfer occurs from this account to this account, and that CAO and the mayor
Perfect.
are approved to execute any agreements.
His worship move that. His worship has moved this on to council for approval. Councillor Twill, you're good? I think so. Okay, thank you. Okay, there's one more item to report on, the 2 single-axle 4x2 dump and plow trucks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this has been on the books since last year to purchase 2 new 4x2 dump truck fully equipped with plow equipment. Just replacing our aging, a couple of our oldest fleet out there, Maclear, that are showing their age and are getting very costly to repair. So we want to get it on the books to get a build time for these 2 trucks. So we're recommending to award to the low bid of East Coast International.
And that is in our capital budget that we've already approved. So are we comfortable moving that, Your Worship? Councillor Twill? Okay, thank you. With the 2 main big items off today, we're rolling through Public Works Committee meeting here, and it's His Worship's favorite time. introduction to new business. Before you get to your new business, Your Worship, I just want to update. I had asked last time for approval for the awards for the Civic Board for Disability, and we're hoping to have that prior to our next Civic Board meeting that we'll be able to bring back to that committee. And also, I had asked for an update on where they were with the waste wash management as we're coming into garbage season, and we expect an update on that. There has been meetings happening, and so at our next committee meeting, there should be a formal update on that. So thank you for that, Scott. And you have an item
Yeah,
you'd like
just to follow up on that, I know Parkdale Elementary School is doing a cleanup of parks in the area, so I know the city will be starting its cleanup very soon, so that's good news and good for the city. No, my issue is with just a couple. At the Human Resources Committee meeting, our last one, maybe our second last one, there was an issue that came up about public vehicle usage, and it was brought forward by a councillor or some councillors. And I know public vehicles fall under the responsibility of,
HR.
No.
That's where the policy
yeah,
lands.
but the administration of it is with the city.
Oh.
City Public Works Department, if I'm wrong, because you're responsible for fleet
okay.
management. So is it up to HR, just to get a clarification, HR to decide who gets vehicles to take home, or is that up through? So I just want to have something come back at the next meeting on working, again, working outside the silos, maybe with HR, with Public Works, to find out what it
A
was.
report on how they determine who gets what vehicle, is that what you're looking for?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Can you provide that, to determine how you delegate who gets city vehicles to take home or for, to use as a full-time means, is what I think you're
Yeah,
asking
because
for.
as I said, Madam Chair, it came up at Human Resources, and we thought it was a little,
The question came directly to me through another counselor, and then I
Oh, you
forwarded
moved
it
it on.
to HR.
okay.
And now it's coming back to get a
Yeah, so it's
report
come
on
full
how,
circle.
how do you operate within the existing policy of city vehicles, and how do you determine who gets to use a city vehicle outside of work time? If we could have something on that. But do you have another point of new business that you'd like to
And,
introduce?
Madam Chair, I think it came up at our Persons with Disabilities Advisory Committee about sidewalk construction, how persons with disabilities, whether they're in a wheelchair or they're a walker, that they have difficulty navigating our sidewalks when they're under construction. So try to provide clear markings or a delineation between the construction and a safe pathway. I know it happened out in Mount Everett Road with the fiber network, that we had some issues with that. And again, it's about providing that safe pathway, and it's something that came up from the
Board. Yep, paying attention. I think they talked to
Persons with
Jamie about
Disabilities
that.
Advisory Committee. Yeah.
And he was going to bring note.
Thank you.
Councillor Twill, do you have anything you would like to put on notice of motion for our next meeting?
No, I just want to,
Use your mic.
is there a concern about the trucks, or like with the trucks or vehicles? Or
I think there was just questions around how was it determined? Someone wanted to understand the process of how it was determined. So it's just information sharing again to reflect how it comes back to the existing policy that we have in place to make sure that
Well, is there a policy?
there is a policy through HR, and then how that policy is interpreted comes through the manager here.
Why,
So-
why is it administered through HR?
Because it's an employee usage, I think. It would be because it would be employees using our city vehicles.
So is that with like, not, what about other departments? Same thing with, say,
Water and sewer would have.
police vehicles?
police, yeah.
Vehicles in the fire department?
So maybe we could actually put this to the CAO, because if it's cross-departmental, it would be probably good if we look at, or through Stephen, maybe McFadden, our fleet management, how it's determined would probably be the best person to provide the report, because he should be able to report that from
Is
his
there-
area.
Is there a policy for those electrical vehicles too?
Councillor Twill?
Well, I'm just asking. I mean, if there's a policy.
I think
through
probably
Human
there is
Resources, I
something
know
through
one of them
that
is
as well.
used on right? So.
I think that
know
would
I
definitely
asked-
fall.
I asked the, Mr. McKinnon there several months ago, is he going to put one of those GPS systems in those electrical vehicles? You haven't done it yet, Joe. I know you're watching the Leafs, but We still haven't got anything for the GPSs for the electrical vehicles.
Well, we'll make sure we look at that
Hope,
too. That's
hope we're not running a
wonderful.
double standard here, are we?
So we have lots of new business for you to come back. That was a good meeting. You know, it's nice when you can actually have a functional meeting.
And I agree, Madam Chair, this was a great meeting, but I just wanted to follow up. I think what Councillor Tweel is saying, as we advance more EV vehicles, we should be tracking who's using them, and I think this is what we're talking about, the larger policy.
And it could end up being amended through the HR policy.
It could be,
And that's
yeah.
what our job is to always look at what policies do we
Working
need
outside in the silos.
to amend and bring up to speed between
Kumbaya.
policy, procedure, and money. That's our job.
Kumbaya.
So thank you very much. I'm going to ask for an adjournment. Moved and moved. Thank you very much. Have a good night.